Well, I think that's mixing a few things kind of irresponsibly, if I'm just being totally honest.
Biden's White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, answered a question around the minimum wage in a way that you would expect out of the Trump administration. But this is the Biden administration. Now, this is over the $15 an hour being in or not in the COVID relief bill. I got two videos here. The first one deals with the parliamentarian aspect of this. As I've discussed in past videos, the parliamentarian ruled that putting the $15 an hour in the COVID relief bill violates the Byrd rule, and Democrats are now using that as an excuse to not put $15 an hour in the bill. I should say the White House is using that as an excuse to not support putting that in the bill, when the reality is the VP, Kamala Harris, can overrule the parliamentarian if she actually wants to push for $15 an hour. So that's what this first question deals with.
On the parliamentarian decision, you said that he respects that decision, but progressives don't understand this. In some respect, they're like, why not fight for this? So why is the White House not more aggressively challenging that and sending the vice president to try and potentially overrule that with a vote?
Well, the decision for the vice president to vote to overrule or to take a step to overrule is not a simple decision. It would also require 50 votes. As you know, it's not a one-step decision. And the president and the vice president both respect the history of the Senate. They are both formerly served in the Senate, and that's not an action we intend to take. But the president is committed to raising the minimum wage, to working to determine the best vehicle forward to doing that. That's why he put it in the package. He wants it to be raised to $15 an hour, and he will be in touch with leaders from all wings of the party in determining the best path forward for that.
All right, I'll get to the second clip, which is even more dishonest. But here, I mean, the idea that the reaction or the reasoning for not overruling the parliamentarian is that the president and the vice president respect the Senate process. The parliamentarian has been overruled before. Part of the process is the ability for the VP to overrule the parliamentarian, an unelected official. If they want the $15 in there, they can get it in there. And I'll get to in a second why it's so important for it to be in this bill and get it done now. But I also want to address just briefly, the question from the reporter, which largely is good, but I don't care for the idea of using progressives as the ones that are bothered by this. If you look at any recent poll, and this is the most recent poll on this, this is a Economist/YouGov poll. It finds that the proposed $15 an hour is 18 points net popular, making it more popular than everything Trump did in office and the most popular key legislative action since Dodd-Frank a decade ago. Everybody wants $15 an hour, not just, progressives or the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, but the vast majority of people want and need a $15 minimum wage. So the way that journalists, reporters should be framing these questions is that based on every piece of data we have, the vast majority of people want this. Why won't the administration fight for it? And the idea that, she also said, Jen Psaki said, you need 50 votes to overrule. The VP can overrule the parliamentarian, and then the bill would go to the Senate, and then the senators have to vote on it. The reason you want $15 an hour in this bill is because this is the leverage needed to get someone like Joe Manchin on board, because Joe Manchin is not going to support a $15 an hour minimum wage in a separate standalone bill. But if he's forced to vote on it when it's in the COVID bill, and he would be, or him and Kristen Sinema being the only barriers to getting the COVID relief bill passed, that forces their hand, may put enough pressure on them to actually have to support that bill because it's in the COVID relief bill. So that is why you want $15 an hour in the COVID relief bill. But that's where we get to the next question now about why is, this is a great question from the reporter, why isn't the administration fighting as hard for $15 an hour as they are for Neera Tanden?
Go ahead, Jeff.
A follow-up to Jeff's question, which strikes me. The White House doesn't have 50 votes to confirm Neera Tanden as OMB director, and yet we heard from the White House Chief of Staff say that the White House is they're going to fight our guts out was the phrase he used, to get her confirmed. So why push for that and not push as hard, one could say, for raising the minimum wage? You could make the argument that the American people stand to benefit more from a higher wage than they would from a chosen OMB director.
Well, I think that's mixing a few things kind of irresponsibly, if I'm just being totally honest. I would say on the minimum wage, the president included a raise of the minimum wage in his package because he felt strongly that it's long overdue, that men and women working hard, trying to make ends meet, shouldn't be living at the poverty level. That's why he put it in his package. There is a process that it goes through, a parliamentary process, when it's a reconciliation bill, as you know, but for people who haven't been following all the nitty gritty of this, because it's a budgetary bill. That's why it went through the process. And, again, I would send you to talk to leaders in Congress to see if they have the 50 votes necessary. But regardless, the president, the vice president have made the decision they're not going to move forward with that step. But also, it's not a simple process. It requires 2 steps. As it relates to Neera Tanden, she is somebody who has decades of experience. She is qualified. She is prepared to lead the budget team. And we're continue, of course, to fight for the confirmation of every nominee that the president puts forward. We'll see if we have 50 votes. That's part of the journey. That's part of democracy in action.
Just ridiculous. Unbelievable. Neera Tanden, here's the real difference. Neera Tanden has a career of protecting and representing corporate interests. That's why they are fighting for her. $15 an hour, large corporate interests don't want that. That is why they're not fighting for that, despite the fact that the vast majority of Americans want and need at least $15 an hour. That's the difference here. And the idea of responding by saying the question is irresponsible, you're mixing a few things irresponsibly, that is just, that's clearly a tactic to avoid the question. But it's also in a way a tactic to bully the media, to say, hey, look, don't ask me this. You're being irresponsible by pushing me on this issue of $15 an hour, of actually helping people, and I have no good answer for this, so your question is very irresponsible. It's just, this tactic is no different than what happened under Donald Trump. Now, obviously, yes, it happened a lot more under Donald Trump. This is only a taste of it so far, but expect more and more of these sorts of responses when the White House is actually pushed on why aren't you helping people? Because that's the issue here. There should be a clear difference when it comes to economic policy between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. There should be. I know those paying attention understand there's not much of a difference based on the history of Joe Biden, not surprising, but there should be a difference there. So these questions from the press are fantastic, and I hope to see more of this. Last thing, when it comes to, this shows you how little the White House is pushing Joe Manchin. This from David Schuster. Manchin ally says Senator has received no pressure or lobbying from White House to vote for the COVID-19 bill with the minimum wage attached. Good for Manchin. Malfeasance at White House. No calls, horse trading, or effort to find out what would get Manchin on board. Good grief, beyond absurd. This shows you how little they are fighting for $15 an hour. I should say little. They aren't fighting at all for it. If they're not even trying to reach out to Joe Manchin to see what it would take to get him on board, yet they're trying to get him on board for Neera Tanden, again, it shows you what their priorities are. Their priorities when it comes to a corporate-friendly pick for OMB director, they'll do whatever they can to get Neera Tanden through. When it comes to actually helping people by raising their wages, they say, oh well, can't get it done. The parliamentarian who we can overrule, it's a very complicated process of 2 steps. Can't do it. But Neera Tanden will do whatever we can to get that corporate hack through.